Good morning for September 23rd, 2025, and happy anniversary to my wife. This is Coffee and a Weather Map with Jeff, the South Texas Forecast Edition. So let's get into everything going on. You can see that we still have that subtropical high sitting over top of South Texas. There is an area of low pressure that's trying to work its way into the region there just to the south across the Rio Grande, and that'll help with some of the rain shower and thunderstorm activity, but most of that's going to be contained to the coast because there really isn't much of anything going on currently in the Gulf or over South Texas. As we look at the 9Z map, which is 4 a.m. local time there in South Texas, you can see there's a whole host of things going on off to the north. This front is going to end up showing up down in South Texas here in a few days. I talked a little bit about it yesterday on when I posted. I did try to record, but then we got behind time-wise and had to take off for some things going on. That has been an issue here over the last week or so. So bear with me as I try to get back on schedule here. The rest of the area, we have fronts that are going through northern or just lower Michigan currently. That should be through here in during the rest of the day. We do have a few showers around. Otherwise, things have quieted down here in northern Michigan. There was a tornado, by the way, up in Torch Lake, not too far away from here on one of the thunderstorms. Otherwise, high pressure out on the East Coast. That'll slowly drift off. Of course, we have Gabrielle out there, and now that she is starting to make a turn off to the east, things should start to progress a little bit more in the patterns. Kind of give you an idea of what is out there. The only major issue is this flood watch as things are going on near that front that's in the center part of the country. And if we take a look at the radar real quickly, you can see right near all that we've got a big area of thunderstorms and showers that are just raining over that same area constantly. And that's one of the big things. But as we'll get into later, that the SPC and WPC actually were pretty close with their marginal risks for today. All right, back to where we were. Otherwise, we have fog advisories in the upper Great Lakes over various places. There were some in northern Lake Michigan earlier, but that's gone now. We have frost and freeze advisories. There's a winter weather advisory there in the mountains just west of Denver in the part of the foothills there for the Rocky Mountains. And then otherwise, there's small craft out in the Pacific Northwest and on the East Coast. Kind of take a look at it. You can see all those thunderstorms that we showed earlier on the radar. Here's the look at on the satellite. All along that basic front area that we've been concerned with. There is that last little bit of the front in northern Michigan, lower Michigan, that's trying to push out of here. It will eventually move out of this area, but we always end up with a few clouds going on. South Texas itself, we have a few things that are trying to get fired up there along the shore, and that's mainly the brunt of what's going to happen here for today. The most likely thing would be a lot of the best chances are going to be along the middle Texas coast. All right, I pulled up a composite map of all the different things and outlooks going on. We'll start over here. Gabrielle, as I said, is now moving off to the east. She's a Cat 4 still as of 8 a.m. and is expected to continue to move eastward. Eventually, it could affect the Azore Islands, but otherwise, it should be mainly, the worst of it should be contained to the North Atlantic. So we do have that area of development, the red, which is I think at 70% still, expected sometime here during the next couple of days, probably past 48 hours most likely at this point, probably 3 days I would suspect, 3 to 4 days. The wave looks pretty healthy. This other one continues to be at about 40%. It is currently in the Lesser Antilles, the Leeward Islands, and then it, well, I'll show you on the satellite. It had a kind of a, try to give us a misdirection if you kind of just looked at the satellite clouds, or the clouds there. It's expected to develop here off the Bahamas or the Turks and Caicos, somewhere in that general area before it moves off. The models are kind of all over the place with it as far as what it develops into, so I wouldn't be too concerned with it, especially for the Gulf region. Otherwise, we do have general showers and thunderstorms coming down out of southeast Texas into the Victoria Crossroads. We have, as I mentioned before, we have slight risk on the central part of the U.S. with for both severe storms and for heavy rain, and then there is a very large swath there of marginal heavy rain expected across a good portion of the central part of the U.S. There's a little bit in the east. I think that's more as that front moves across, and then there is a Pacific low that's trying to move in that will cause rain over there in Southern California as well. As we move on into the day 2 portion of it, you can see SPC and WPC kind of agree with that. I think the marginal risk is for excessive heavy rain. The rest of it is marginal severe storm activity across the eastern part of the U.S., basically up and down the Appalachians and into the Gulf Coast region, the lower Mississippi Valley. And then we get some of that moisture from the monsoonal moisture back up into southern New Mexico around El Paso and Las Cruces. Some of these areas in South Texas looks like it even gets down to almost the Corpus Christi area, where there is a slight or a marginal risk of both heavy rain and the chance for severe thunderstorms. All right, so if we go on to day 3, which would be Thursday, we continue with a lot of that stuff along the East Coast. We have a general outlook for showers and thunderstorms that should start to become a little less in the way of severity. We probably still have a fair amount of thunderstorms. We'll take a short look at what we could expect rain-wise over the next 3 days. There is a excessive heavy rain outlook in the desert Southwest that starts there on the Arizona-New Mexico border and blossoms back up into Carson City, Nevada, and Las Vegas. So there's a marginal risk for excessive heavy rain with some of that going on out in the west. Otherwise, there's a slight risk there along the border. Okay, into the tropical section. There are the 2 waves that we've been talking about. You can see Gabrielle up here and now moving off, as I said, as a Category 4 storm that will weaken with time. It could get out here into the Azores, which I think is over, this general area. And it may still be holding on to being at least a Cat 1 hurricane by the time it gets out there. It depends on how much the cooler water that it's going to pass into can take that energy out. Okay, so the red area, which is not expected to really approach land that much. It might approach Bermuda. That's this wave here that I've circled in green. That that one will continue to move on. It should be developing here, like I said, over the next several days. The one they've been concerned with is this wave that's moving through the Lesser Antilles. We will take a look a little bit more because that does have some implications. So the models have been all over the place with what's going to be going on with that. As I said earlier, that second wave, if you look at it, you'd think that thing's moving south. It's not going to threaten anybody, but that's just the thunderstorm blow off. If you look very closely, you can see some of those clouds, lower clouds that are moving off to the northeast, and they kind of bend back around. So the wave itself is going through there, but that cluster of thunderstorms that developed overnight with it is propagating off to the south. So we'll have to keep an eye on it as well. This is an upper level low. It's not really expected to do anything. There's Gabrielle with a nice well-defined eye moving away from Bermuda. And then here's that wave that we've been expecting to spin up. I am not going to say it's potential whatever the next letter would be. The H one is. I think it's Humbert or something like that. That's just silly. I've seen people say that, oh, this is the potential, and then the potential for I think it's Imelda. Yeah, there's, to me, that gets into just trying to get clicks on things, because it's just, we just don't know yet. For all intents and purposes, the bigger wave that's expected to develop is probably going to continue to move on a similar track to Gabrielle, although it could go over Bermuda. That is a possibility. This other wave is expected to continue to move to the northwest up into the Bahamas, and we can take a look at that here in a second. And if it does, the models have been all over the place. It was showing it developing into a tropical storm or even a low-end hurricane at one point into the Carolinas. Now it develops it, and throws it out into the Atlantic. So, and then the models as well were saying that there was stuff out here in the Gulf. Well, right now there's nothing in the Gulf. We will look at a little bit of the extended, as far as that's concerned, off the tropical tidbit sites here towards the end of this. All right, just to kind of give you, there is the areas where they're expected to develop. So this is 70% or greater chance. This one is 40% or greater chance. So that's where we're at with the orange or the red and the orange. Gabrielle continues to move off, as I said. All right, let's do the temperatures. We'll get into that, and then I'll take a look at tropical tidbits here in a bit. So we're expecting temperatures upper 80s along the coast. The middle Texas coast, it gets into the mid to upper 90s as you get into the coastal plains. That'd be like Beeville, Mathis, Kingsville, Falfurrias, those areas. As you get further out into the brush country, we're expecting temperatures to be around 100 degrees, plus or minus, and out there in Laredo, around 103. So most of the precipitation, as I said, should be mainly with the sea breeze, and expected to be along the middle Texas coast and the coastal bend. As you get further into the coastal plains, the chances for precipitation fall down to the point where it's below 10% when you get out past Kennedy and Falfurrias. Temperatures continue that same sort of look, as I said. The next couple of days will continue to be that typical summertime pattern. Upper 80s on the barrier islands, lower or around 90 there in the coastal bend. The coastal plains will be in the mid to upper 90s, and then you get into right around 100 degrees as you get out into the brush country. Now, the next day, for Wednesday, the chances for precipitation go up quite a bit as that cold front pushes through. So we're looking at categorical. So everybody is expected to get some rain during that 24-hour period. And we'll talk about how much you're going to get here towards the end. Otherwise, then once that cold front comes through and pushes through, we're going to have about a 10-degree temperature drop. If we said that here in northern Michigan, or where I'm currently at, it would be, everyone would be going, oh my gosh, 50s. But no, here it's 80s. So it'll be mid 80s along the shoreline there on the Middle Texas coast, on the barrier islands. The coastal plain, or the coastal bend, we'll probably see mid 80s, and then we're going to be right around 90 degrees in the coastal plains. As we get a little bit further out into the brush country, it still remains right around 90 degrees all the way out to Laredo. The rain will still continue. There'll be some of that will continue on, at least. So we're expecting areas near south central Texas, like Dilley, Kennedy, there, you go north up towards San Antonio, to be at 50% or less for the chance for rain as the front kind of continues to push off. The higher percentages is where the front is going to be located, which will be in deep South Texas. So the South Texas itself will be kind of caught between everything, as well as the Victoria Crossroads and getting into southeast Texas. As I said, for the next 3 days, this is a 3-day outlook of potential for rain. As I said, most of it will be along the Middle Texas coast and the coastal bend. As you get out into the coastal plains, we are expecting over the next 3 days about an inch to an inch and a half-ish, inch and a quarter. As you get out there, there's a few yellows out there, which would be over an inch and a half, getting into areas near Choke Canyon. Mathis is where Lake Corpus Christi is. So we're looking at some decent rain amounts. Hopefully that will be the case. We need more rain to help fill up the reservoirs. So that's the big thing to keep an eye on. Okay, before we close everything out, I promised tropical tidbits. So what I did was I took the European, and this is the European ensemble, so you can kind of see what it looks like as far as where all the low pressures are expected. Right now, here is that the European has that wave that is expected to continue to develop. It has a little bit of that wave, that second wave, but it's even further out, and this is the 0Z run from last night, so it's not really picking that up very well. There is Gabrielle, and then there is Narda, which is off the Mexican coast. As we move this forward in time, you'll see all those little reds are where the expected low pressure center system centers are expected with it. You can see most of the stuff that goes on with those waves kind of fall apart. It takes us until we are nearly at, let's see, what time is that? The 26th, 6Z, so that would be 1 a.m. on the 26th in Texas, 2 a.m. Eastern time where I'm at. And you'll see that there's a couple of waves that try to form. There's that second wave. The one that's orange that they've given a 40% chance, it moves through. It looks like it tries to develop something, but then it doesn't really do a whole lot. They're all over the place. The one that really is, I guess, more concerning would be the one that's out, that's in the red, the 70% plus one. That should be, by the time it gets up there and develops, then it will move out to sea, but it could be a problem for Bermuda. As we keep moving on, you'll notice everything just starts to look yellow. That's just because the spread on all these different members of the European are just going all over the place. And you can see there's some, if you track the little numbers, there's, there may be one that's going up into Louisiana. There's one that's supposed to go up in the eastern part of the Gulf over to about Pensacola, Panama City. This is not a great time for the models as it is. And just to kind of show that, here's the GFS. The GFS also, at least on the model, I had to do a jump there. Okay. to show the waves. It doesn't really develop a whole lot until later. Both those waves go out, they kind of fall apart. They're almost competing with each other, and then something happens and it goes out to the east. Otherwise, if you watch the Gulf, there's not a whole lot expected to go into up around Corpus Christi. There are a few stray low numbers that go up into the central and eastern Gulf. But you can see everything just seems to be all over the place. And that's pretty typical for the models the further out you go. You know, the GFS goes out 384 hours from last night. That's 15 days. So, and as I had been fond of saying when I was in the Weather Service, I don't even trust my own forecast out past 3 days sometimes. So, just because there is so much variability when you're dealing with computer models, that there are things that we just can't model accurately enough to really get something going. So beware of everything that is out there on the internet. It is not always as it seems. Okay, and with that, have a great day. This has been Coffee and a Weather Map with Jeff, the South Texas edition. Take care, everybody.